Yo guys, welcome to the video. This is Josh or Milky, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a bit of a follow-up on my previous video, which was kind of like a meta report-ish thing about kind of the farms and how the league had progressed in terms of what people were doing to make their currency. And we have had quite a few changes. There's been some new farms that people have been doing. There've also been a patch that came out yesterday. So I'm going to do a little bit of analysis on what's gone on and maybe what you should be looking to farm if you're either like just getting into the swing of the things with the league. It's easy for me to sometimes forget, you know, I burn out really fast on these games, but some people like to take it nice and slow, or maybe you've just been busy for a couple of weeks. So yeah, I'm trying to make more content that's kind of not just looking at how I see the game and how maybe you guys see it. So let's come into the other monitor we have here. The patch, if you don't know what was going on, essentially, there was a bug, or it's an alleged bug, that when you dropped a T16.5 map, that's an originator influence map, with the corruption scarab, you would drop it and it would have 8 modifiers, sorry, it's not this one. It would have all 8 T17 map modifiers. Now, what this meant was all of these modifiers had much higher associated pack size, rarity, quantity, scarabs, maps, currency, values than their, you know, tier 16 counterparts or just tier 16 mods in general, which resulted in maps that were just far better and resulted in far more loot and or monsters than you would typically be able to get on a map. And this was obviously what was causing a lot of the big farms to be as good as they were, because the standard of map that you could get was just something we've never seen before, because you can't really get 8 mod T17s reliably enough. But these T16.5s 8 mods were dropping like candy, and you'll see in my last video, I mentioned this quite a bit in the map farming strategies. So these are still good, but we'll get into exactly like the difference. This is not a cherry-picked map by any means. I just ran a map, dropped one. I also picked a random one out of here, which is like my legacy maps. So none of this is cherry-picked. This is one that you could now drop. You can see still relatively good, right? You still get 160 quantity, 128 rarity, 56 pack size, 140 currency. Sorry, I'd say this is overall quite a good one. And then you have one of the previous ones, which has pretty similar mods, higher in all respects, as well as having that extra like 83% scarabs and 50% maps on top of already having more quant rarity and pack size. So computing this isn't exactly easy, looking across all the different maps I have and kind of being like what it averages out to. But in my estimate, it's probably somewhere up to about a third when this all compounds. You know, the less pack size is less mobs, and then that's less of the, you know, less mobs to drop more things and less quantity of the things that those mobs drop. It all comes together, and I would estimate probably it comes out about a third less in 16.5s. Now, there are still decent reasons to use T16.5s. I'd say there are probably 3 distinguishing characteristics of a 16.5 versus a 17. The first of which being you could choose the map layout, of course. You can also scry cards into there, which is kind of part and parcel of that. You can drop them as 8 mods, which you can't do with T17s. They can't drop 8 modded. So much easier to get a high supply of 8 modded maps, which on average are obviously much better than a randomly rolled tier 6 mod T17. But you're obviously going to have a lot of dud maps that are kind of useless, so that one goes on its own. And then petals, but if I'm being honest, petals are kind of a letdown. They did say like 3 days into the league they're looking at buffing them, and here we are twiddling our thumbs 2 weeks later without any change. I'm kind of done with most of the stuff that I've wanted to do this league. I got my character together. I'm playing Blade Vortex. Pretty cool. So what I've done today is I've gone through and basically done what I did in the last video, where I've isolated what I would consider to be the best farms that I know of, that I've seen that people are doing. There are some honorable mentions that we'll talk about these as we go through. So we have Abyss. If you have not seen this Abyss strategy, it is the one that Fubgun has been running and many creators alike. Essentially, you add a lot of Abysses to your map. You run Risk Scarabs to get a huge amount of quant rarity and scarabs and all that stuff. And then the boxes that are summoned from the Edifice Scarab drop a tremendous amount of loot because they scale with all those things. So all those Risk Scarabs, all the modifiers you get are applying to those hordes from the Abyss as well as the monsters. So you're kind of like doubling down on those Scarabs that you're using. So Abyss is very, very strong, and it self-sustains itself, and it drops a lot of raw currency, making it probably the best farm right now. The Ethereal Allflame is still very, very good, and it is still very, very hard to get in a decent amount of bulk. Now, it did get hit a little bit by there no longer being these like bugged T16.5s. This was extremely expensive to do and did require very good maps. And now you're going to have to hunt down legacy maps because people will be willing to do this. So if you're someone who's not willing to do this, you're going to be running maps that, as I said, probably drop 33% less loot than their legacy counterpart. So be careful running the ethereal if you're not willing to source the legacy maps, as you are going to be paying a premium but not receiving that in return. Boxes, old reliable, mentioned it in the last video, still good, and the containment scarab has come down in price. I did do some testing on it. A lot of people mentioned and were confused by what I said about boxes, so I've done some further testing. This is going to be a quick tangent in this video where I talk about this. In the Settlers of Calgary League, I did a lot of boxes, so much so that it's kind of a meme in my stream that I like to click boxes all the time, and then I make a good build or a bad build in most cases, and then click boxes for 2 weeks before calling it quits. I did a lot of testing on boxes in the Settlers of Calgary in order to determine whether or not currency works on the boxes. This may seem quite trivial to test. Click an Arcanist box, count what comes out. But things drop in different stack sizes, and determining exactly how much came out is difficult. However, if you roll your map for 500% currency, once map effect is taken into account, it should be pretty obvious versus a map that has 0 currency on it. And I found no reason to believe that currency affected the loot that came out of Arcanist Strongboxes. But what I didn't really think was, the other boxes that aren't Arcanist Strongboxes do very clearly benefit from increased currency. So it's just Arcanists that aren't affected by increases to currency, and the regular boxes are affected by increases to currency, and I assume this applies to Scarabs as well. It's quite similar to the fact that Divination card Strongboxes aren't affected by Divination card Chisels. I think Arcanists and Div Strongboxes are kind of more like tiles than just like base loot, right? It's not like it's like a base loot chest where everything is removed from the pool except currency. It's no, currency is specifically put in there. It is an amount, and it is scaled exclusively by what is on the roll of that strongbox and the quantity of the map, I assume. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Still roll for currency, stuff like that. If you want to farm currency, it works on all the boxes except the Arcanist boxes, in my experience and in my testing. And of course, it applies to all the mobs. And if you're doing this in T17, Fortress specifically, it applies to all of the little barrels that you'll kill along the way. So Fortress boxes is what I would do for strong boxes. You can absolutely do this in lower tiers, but I would refrain from using the containment scarab. If you want to do this in like regular T16s, don't use the containment scarab because it is priced around people doing it in those higher tier maps. Then we have risk boss rushing. This is quite popular right now. Just risk in general. It's not necessarily just rushing to the boss, but just doing very, very fast maps with 5 risk scarabs on. I see people doing this quite consistently in the Abomination map, and that's because obviously it has the reality fragment, and I believe it's the Eater of Worlds fragment, whichever one that is, but basically it has a couple of good fragments, and those fragments are pretty expensive right now. Reality fragments are almost a divine each, so you can just rush through those maps. T17s are cheap, but rising in price now that this map change has taken into effect. Now, map farming itself, it's kind of gone down, but that was when obviously these 16.5s were very valuable. You can just produce so many. You just make so many maps. So it's hard for them to retain values. But if you want to find out how to farm maps, you can look at Borlocked, Settlers, Magic Monster, Mob Map Farming Strategy. Very good strat. And then there's another one that I would like to look at because of something that I've noticed later on. We'll talk about Conqueror and Elder rotations, is this Blight Conversion strategy. I've been doing a lot of Blight. I have actually tried to go out my way this league to do different strategies that I don't normally do. So I've been doing things like Betrayal, Blight, Essence. I didn't do Abyss. I don't normally do Abyss. Just everyone's doing it. All right, I'm a bit of a contrarian. I don't know. So I've been doing Blight. I kind of like it because you just kill all the mobs and then the loot drops in one place. I kind of hate running around like having to click oopie scandy. I don't really like that. Just give me the loot in one place. And that's kind of what Blight does. So I've been enjoying it. But anyway, tangent aside. Cornerius put out a video about a Blight farming strategy where you can convert all these crazy amount of maps that you can drop, which we just mentioned in map farming, but you can turn them into influence maps. So these can be Shaper, Conqueror, Synthesis, Elder, all of which are valuable. Now, the most valuable are the Conqueror, the Synthesis, and the Elder. Shaper's not really quite on their level, but these are very, very good right now, and I assume they're going to get even better because I've been... For this video, I did a lot of looking at the market to try and figure out what was kind of doing what and where we should be looking. And there are some cool things that I'm not really seeing people farm right now. I'm sure some of you will be, and I'm sorry if you are, and I've pointed out, I've shone a flashlight on you. But We'll look at that in a minute. Color mech. Unique items just right now aren't super valuable. A lot of them come down. Mage Blood is teetering, like it's going up and then coming down and going up and going down. But most of the others are pretty deflated right now. Especially when you consider like their buying power against the mirror, because most of them have gone down, but the mirror's like tripled in price, and Mage Blood hasn't even really budged compared to the mirror. So relatively speaking, uniques are a bit cheaper against like divines and mirrors. So maybe unique farming is pretty tough. You can print a lot of uniques doing like the cool mech, and I should say rogue exiles here as well, if you're doing downloaded exiles. But there's just so many unique items. A lot of the most desirable unique items right now that aren't as available are boss drops, right? Not necessarily these global drops that you can get from farming these unique items. Now, I will say there are some very cool rogue exile strategies. I know Rutu farms a ton of rogue exiles. His strategy is always very... It's very affordable to do. Once what I see stream, he's doing like, I think he brings it up quite a lot. He said 9C and Scarabs whenever he drops a divine, something like that, and it's a cool strat. So if you like that, check out Rutu's farming strategy. Very, very good. Just produces a lot of currency, a lot of Scarabs, and it looks pretty fun to do. So if you like Rogue Exiles, there you go. Then we have crop rotation. Now, the first thing I'll mention is Life Force is pretty expensive right now. It's like 6k to 1. But yellow Life Force, this means people are gambling their divination cards and quitting the league. If you didn't know what that means, purple Life Force is 8k, and blue Life Force holding strong at 6.5k to 1. Don't know what people are doing with blue Life Force, maybe flipping some kind of commodity. But we have that. So harvest rate's actually pretty good, especially considering the Awakening Scarab is 0.75. And with an Awakening Scarab, you can typically get around like 8 to 10k life force per map. So easily beating that divine. So when you take all things into consideration, pretty decent per map as long as you can do it relatively fast and you're good at the crop rotation mechanic itself. This can obviously be even higher if you've got access to those legacy maps with even higher amounts of quantity and pack size, but you have to be willing to source those yourself. So that's up to you. Catalyzing Ultimatum, still incredibly good. You just get raw divines. Again, another one I've seen Rutu doing. You can just get raw divines from these inscribed ultimatums. Do you need a very strong character to do these, or you risk losing 4 divines yourself whenever you get one? But pretty good. Now, the strat that kind of came and went with the wind. I went away this weekend. I came back and there was a nerf, but in that time, in that 2 days that I was away, I went to see Lincoln Park in Wembley, by the way, for anyone that's interested. Very, very good. Loved it. Spirit Box was supporting them. Awesome. But either way, Breach kind of came out of the woodworks as this extremely strong way to add just a tremendous number of monsters to your map, which when combined with Beyond was creating like up to 10k monster maps that was just dropping. When you're killing that many monsters, it doesn't matter how amazing their like drop rate ratios are on any specific given mob, right? Because we know that Breach mobs kind of shit, we know that Beyond mobs kind of bad, but when you kill 10,000 of them, that's pretty good. So you drop a lot of currency, and people were doing that with obviously these legacy 8 modded maps and with risk scarabs, and maybe even with wisp scarabs and stuff like that. You were also managing to sustain your own maps with correct combination of scarabs. So this strategy was really, really, really potent. People dropping mirrors, locks, sacred orbs out the ass, just tons of currency. It was like affliction levels almost of raw currency being printed. But this one got hit pretty hard by the 16.5 changes. That kind of less multiplier is going to apply to all those mobs. So instead of like a 10k map now, if you've got that less pack size, you're going to be like 7 or 8k. Then obviously all of them have got less quant. So yeah, it's still probably good, but sourcing the maps or getting decent maps going to be pretty annoying. But I imagine this one, people are probably going to steer away from this because it was quite laggy and everything. But I might like, if the maps are only 33% less, which is probably my estimate, maybe my estimate's off, who knows. But if they're only 33% worse, this strat still seems pretty good. People were farming like 30 raw divines in an hour, and however many sacred orbs, which is a pretty good rate for dropping mirrors, right? So losing 30% of that, it goes down to 21 raw divines in an hour. It just isn't that bad still. Like most of you are probably like, what? I've farmed for 7 years and I've dropped 40 chaos orbs. Yeah, and people are sniffing at 21 divines. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens with this. I imagine some people will still try it and enjoy it. So these are like the best farms I've seen. There are definitely more that that just don't hit my radar. This always happens. I try my best. There are just some strats that I don't know about, haven't tried, don't hit my radar. I will say for Blight, there's a lot more to Blight than just this Blight Conversion strat. I've been doing a lot. Someone shared with me, he was doing a like a +1 rare modifier Blight strat without the unique mobs. With like high scarab count, he was dropping like 5 divines worth of scarabs and some like raw tinks every map. So there is some cool stuff to be done with Blight. If you can do it, if your build is able to do it. So Blight could find, Blight's very much between the top tier and the kind of the bottom tier. In my opinion, I think it's just missing a little something. And a lot of people just don't like doing it. And it's very heavy on the performance. But people love this breach strat, and that literally just like turns your PC off. So I don't know if people care about performance as much as the sound a divine makes when it hits the floor. So type 2 strategies, the strategies that are going to provide all the Tom, Dick, and Harrys with what they need to both put their builds together and play them. So these are things like commodities, they're like boss invitations, they're the stuff people need to do the things they want to do. Scarabs, all that. Scarabs are pretty hard for type 2 to break into this league, just because Abyss prints so many, Ethereal prints so many. You don't really get a say on Scarabs. There are some decent Scarab strats that I've seen. Ever since our last video, obviously people, when I said I can't really find one, there aren't any, people were very quick to tell me that I was wrong. I appreciate that. I did try a lot of the strategies that people mentioned to me. I kind of stand by what I said in my first video, where they're okay, but they definitely don't pop like they used to, and especially with how cheap scarabs are right now, you really need to be dropping a ton of scarabs for it to be good. Nonetheless, let's get into the type 2 strats. Betrayal. Right now, we have, where is it? Syndicate Medallions are 4 divines each. That's crazy. Veiled Exile Absolves are 16 divines. So Syndicate Medallions, I found to be maybe 1 in every 6 safe houses when I've done a lot of Betrayal. People will have other data. This is what I've had. Obviously, you get the Ethereal Allflames too, and you will get all whatever loot you get from doing your Betrayals. So, Betrayal, again, just very good to be doing. Very consistent money. Is it the best? No, but is it consistent? And are you going to get a nice big juice up once you get a medallion? Yes, if you're someone that struggles to make currency, just doing some simple Betrayal is going to reward you eventually with that nice 4 div here, 4 div there, 1 div from the Ethereal. It's going to be a nice way to get some seed money to do some other things with. So Betrayal is still very, very good. Essences. There are a lot of essences that are very expensive. I went out of my way to try and craft this little helmet here yesterday, and goddamn. Oh, the essences to craft this helmet are expensive. Essences of Horror are like 4 to a divine. And people need a ton of them to craft stuff like this. So you can quite easily get these, and then people will probably flip in the other essences into the Essences of Horrors. So Essence is very good. Also, Essences of Scorn are 15 to a divine. Essence of Spite, 18 to a divine. I haven't seen this in years. Essences of Spite being so expensive. So people really loving the int stacking. I've seen Empyrean doing that if you want to see someone who's making an instat build, or Spicy Sushi also doing it. So Essence is very, very good right now. Red Altars. Look at this. These might as well be called Divine Shards right now, someone said in my chat earlier. So yeah, 20 to 1 on Grand Embers. And you know you can leave a map with 40, 50, 60 Grand Embers if you get a good map. So Grand Embers, very, very good. Red Altars going to be a very consistent way for you to make money if you are into that. You can also scale this pretty well with a ton of pack size, with things like Lineage Scarabs, or just the Influencing Scarab of the Hordes. Add in like as many local mobs as you mapped you can. Also, shrines have some unique interactions with altars for whatever reason. So adding shrines to your map is going to give you more of your altar rewards. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. But it does. Ritual Audience with the King right now is 3 Audience with the Kings to 4 divines, so 1.33 divines each. Blanching Omens are like 0.8 to 1, which is crazy. You get a ton of these. Ritual Vessels are 5 to 1. And then, of course, we've got things like synthesized items, all the other omens, which are also quite valuable. Things like the Amelioration Omen, so people can get to level 100. The Leveling Omen, or, of course, Connections, Jewelers, stuff like that. But this was great. 0.8 to 1 on Blanching was crazy to me. And because you get a lot of these. You get an awful lot of these doing Ritual. So Ritual, pretty good right now. Eagon Rushing. What is this? So obviously you'll know that Eagon got added this league. He's kind of the guy that allows you to do these like memory threads on your atlas. You'll travel through, and at the end you'll fight a boss. And these bosses can drop one of these orbs potentially, as well as some of their own unique items. And some of these orbs are incredibly valuable. We have like a 2.5 divine orb of remembrance. What else do we have? We have the orb of, I believe it's unraveling. It's pretty expensive. Sorry, did I do the same one then? I do apologize. Remembrance, let's say. Yeah, so those are about the same, like 2.66 divines each, or 3 to 8. And then we have the other one I believe isn't very expensive. Yeah, well, not as expensive, but still worth something, right? So yeah, they're very good. And obviously they've got the unique boss drops as well. You've got the flask, you've got the amulet, some very good drops from those. Yeah, the Eagon boss rushing is very good, and that's mainly because obviously those things are expensive, but also just the fragments themselves. In order to actually fight those bosses that drop those items, you've got the Echo of Reverence, which you can target farm by reducing the chance for the other ones on your Atlas tree. This is almost 3 divines now, so Eagon rushing, very, very good. And all this requires you to do is run through maps quickly, just do a fast strat, and then when you hit a memory thread, you just jump into Aegon's map device. You can run the same strategy in Aegon's memory threads and just keep getting these extra fragments adding up as you go. You see, I've sold most of mine, but I do have 8 trauma, so you just do maps fast, basically. By the way, all these ideas, strats, and that will be on my sheet. I do have a lot to update on there, so bear with me. I will be adding a lot more strategies to it over the next couple of days, but I need time to do it. There's a lot of them, and I feel like the more I try to add too many things, the more mistakes I make. So I'm going to take my time a little bit, make sure I don't mess up too much. I'm sure there will be mistakes either way, but yeah, let me take a bit of time to get it right. Harbinger, very good right now. Exile's pretty good, like 16 to 1. Annulment's like 40 something to 1. Ancient Orbs, didn't actually check Ancient Orbs. Let me check Ancient Orbs to see how many they are to 1. 20 to 1, very, very good. And then Fracturing Orbs are 1 to 6. So yeah, Harbinger, very good right now. The Scarabs aren't that expensive at all. They're pretty cheap. So yeah, if you like Harby, it's not for everyone. To some people, it's the only farm they want to do. So Harby, good right now. Now my kind of pick for what is sleeper right now, after just looking at stuff, is these Conqueror and Elder rotations. My god, these maps are pretty easy to produce with the Conversion Scarab, which isn't that expensive. You'll see it's the one that Canarius was using in his strat. They're a chaos each, and you can drop so many maps in one map that you can then convert all of those to these influence maps, and you can set yourself up to run like 100 Conqueror rotations in a few hours, and then you run all those, you're gonna make a ton of money, because all of the Conqueror orbs are like 2 divines each. You've got like the Unnatural Instinct cards, Maven's Writs are almost a divine each, Conflict Orbs are more than a divine each, you're getting all these Awakened gems. Yeah, I think these rotations are pretty good right now. And not many people are doing them. Now, I haven't done them myself. I'm just doing this. I'm just saying this based off of the market. I may try this myself tomorrow, but I don't know if my build's really cut out to be doing Conqueror rotations. He said with a power charge ring, this helmet. Look, okay, it's BV. Leave me alone. Svallin Rush in. I mentioned this in the last video. Svallin still incredibly expensive, especially once everyone sees how good my build is and wants to copy it. 100 divines for that shield. You can still just rush through doing Calgur Scarabs, looking for those Starfall craters. People dropping 1 or 2 of these a day, I've heard, just like speed running these maps. You could combine this with Eagon rushing to add in even more. You could even throw on some Essence to quickly blast that. There's a lot of ways that you can stack these things together. Even something like Heist, which is very, very good right now. Heist, look at these prices for Heist. Where is it? Deception contracts, 10C each, easy to sell in bulk, 10C each minimum. I was seeing on the trade website. Blueprints, 20C each, pretty much minimum again, like just any blueprint, 20C each. And you get a lot of these per map, right? You can add 3 smugglers caches with the map device, and then you can add the chance for them to be fully revealed. You can also add the chances for smugglers caches from your Atlas passive tree. Very good. If you like doing the heist, also insanely good. Temporary orbs are 1.5D, tailoring orbs are 2D. All the other miscellaneous stuff you get along the way. Huge simplexes, incredibly expensive right now, especially because you get them on split, right? And then you get to triple split them. So you make like 390 divines whenever you get a simplex or something. No, sorry, it's like 200 divines. I can't do math. Yeah, it's crazy. The amount of money you can be made if you're someone who likes and is willing to sit and do heist is very good. But if not, you can just click on the caches, pick up the blueprints and the contracts and sell those. Then something you can just tack on is primitive primitive chaotic resonators, try to say that fast, are 3C each right now, which is more than they typically are by a factor of about 5. So you can just throw on some Nico, which is pretty easy to fit into these lower investment strategies, and then you take mining byproducts. So you're going to get like some character buffs as you do the map, and you're going to get a 10% chance to get an equal amount of Azurite when you click a node, and then you can go to the mining encampment, talk to Nico, trade those for resonators, and Bob's your uncle. You've got some monies. The reason these are a bit more expensive this league is they bypass these memory threads. So people making items by using fossils to preserve the memory threads for later on in the crafting process. I believe that's why they're probably more expensive this league. What else do we have? So we're getting towards the end. We have stack deck farming. These are like 90 to 1. And you farm. I've heard like 60 per map being like a pretty reasonable number. So very, very good. Blight we already spoke about. Very, very good. Things that are kind of not that good right now. Regular breach for breach stones. Now, Chiyulas are 100C each, but I'm not too sure how many of these you're going to be getting per map. But something that could be good, especially grasping mails are also pretty expensive. Maybe I misjudged this one. I think this one can pretty easily go here with how much grasping mails are and how much Chiyula breach stones are. I think I'm being too harsh on Young Breach, but Legion and Expedition, no, they're not it right now. I'd say these two are pretty much fallen out of favor, and they're going to struggle to find their way back into the meta, at least for the remainder of this league. So, there it is. There is episode 2 of the Milkman Yaps for 25 minutes. You map and listen, hopefully. A lot of cool stuff there. Make sure you check the sheet for the actual strategy versions of the absolute vile. I've just been spewing. It was a fun video. I like talking about this stuff, seeing all these this is something you can do too, by the way. Like just you can see these trends when you're playing the game and you see how much something is, and then you go to buy it yourself and you're like, what the hell? Why is it so expensive? Look at that kind of stuff, right? And you can start knowing where to look to find some maybe untapped market or something you can farm that's maybe better. You'll notice one thing I haven't really mentioned is a lot of these farms that are kind of creepily becoming quite good are the farms people don't want to do. or not many people want to do. When you see Fubgun dropping 9 divines a map, most people want to do that, right? But not everyone can do that. And also, most people forget the investment that goes into doing something like that, whether in terms of character or the map itself. So these things, they may not be as extravagant. They may not be tickling your little monkey brain receptors as much as the Abyss Strat or the Breach Strat or all that other stuff. But if you want to get results, these things are going to be very good, and they're going to get you to where you want to be, provided you're willing to put in the time and effort. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll leave the links to these two people, Bollock and Canarius, in the description. I will be streaming my pretty crappy BV build the next couple of days, trying out these farming strikes that I've been mentioning, the ones that I think maybe are going to be some big movers. And yeah, I'll see you next time.